In this video, we can discuss the rest of the two capital structure theories, that is traditional theory and Modigliani-Miller theory. So we can see the traditional theory. So the net income theory and net operating income theory was propounded by David Durant. This traditional theory is put forward by Solomon Ezra. And this theory is a combination of net income theory and net operating income theory. Or we can say that it lies in the midway between NI theory and NOI theory. So that's why it is known as intermediate approach. And we can have a short look to this theory. As per this theory, when debt increases, since debt is a cheaper source of finance, the overall cost of capital, that is K0, will decrease. And if the overall cost of capital decrease, definitely the value will increase. And this happens only up to a particular limit. Beyond that limit, if additional debt is used, that will result in decrease in the value of the firm. So if debt and equity is used judiciously, the overall cost of capital can be reduced and the value can be increased. Thus, there is an optimal capital structure. In the net operating income theory, David Durant says that there is no optimal capital structure theory because this capital structure does not affect the value of the firm. But in traditional theory, Solomon Ezra says that debt increases. Since if the debt increases in the capital structure, it is a cheaper source of finance, the cost of capital, overall cost of capital will decrease and the value will increase up to a certain limit. Beyond that limit, if again additional debt is used, then the value will decrease. So if the debt and equity is used in a judicious way, definitely we can reduce the overall cost of capital and the value can be increased. So there is an optimal capital structure and we need to find it out. That was the theory which was put forward by Solomon Ezra. And his theory can be explained in detail in three stages. The first stage, it is somewhat which is similar to the net income theory. The debt increases since if in the capital structure, if the debt component increases, that means debt is a cheaper source of finance. So the overall cost of capital K0 will decrease and the value will increase. How this happens? This happens because cost of equity remains constant with the increase in debt. So it will not offset the advantage created by the use of low cost debt. In the first stage, the cost of equity will remains constant. So if the cheaper source of finance is, that is debt, is increased, normally the overall cost of capital will decrease and hence the value will increase. The cost of the debt also constant because the market views that the use of debt is within the limit. So the cost of debt will also be constant. It is just exactly like the net income theory. In the second stage, it is somewhat similar to the net operating income theory. If the debt is increased again beyond the limit, then definitely the cost of equity will increase and the cost of overall capital will increase and the value decreases. This happens because KE increases. Why KE increases? Because if debt is increased at the limit which is beyond that limit, again, if the debt is increased, then definitely the risk will increase because of the increases in risk due to the more debt. So definitely the shareholders will accept more return. So the KE will increase. If the debt is used in a way which is that is used beyond a limit, definitely there is an increase in the shareholders point of view, there is an increase in risk in the shareholders point of view, so they will expect more return, so KE will increase. So when KE increase, the cost of overall cost of capital K0 will increase and value will decrease. So benefit due to the increased debt is offset by increase in cost of equity. So whatever benefit is created by using this cheaper source of finance, that debt, in the first stage get nullified in the second stage by the increased use of the debt. So whatever increase in the value happened in the first stage will get nullified by the excess use of debt, resulting in the increase in the cost of equity, and that benefit acquired in the first stage will get nullified in the second stage. And what happens if again and again the debt is increased again? That will lead to the increase in the cost of capital, and the value will start reducing. That's happened in the third stage. So if in the first stage, by using the debt, cheaper source of finance, if the value is increased 5%, then in the second stage, by increasing, if the debt is increased again and again use, what the 5% of value increase in the first stage will get nullified in the second stage. So the value of the firm will comes into the earlier position, and there is no rise and no uh, there is no rise and there is no fall in the value. But in the third stage, if again and again debt is increased again, then the cost of capital, overall cost of capital will increase, and the value of the firm will goes downwards. So that's the traditional theory by Solomon Esra, says in three stages. The first stage is exactly like a net income theory. Second stage is like a net operating income theory, says that whatever benefit acquired in the first stage will get nullified in the second stage. And the third stage, if again and again we are using the debt, then definitely the overall cost of capital will increase, and that will lead to the reduction in the value of the firm. Now we can move on to the Modigliani Miller theory, that is the last theory, capital structure theory. So the Modigliani Miller developed two approaches of capital structure. So they put forward two types of theories. That is, in 1958, Modigliani and Miller approach, it is without taxes, and in 1963 they given this approach saying with an assumption that with taxes. So first of all, we can discuss the first one, that is the Modigliani-Miller approach without taxes, 1958. And this is considered as the original theory. And this is somewhat identical to the net operating income approach. While the second theory, that is the Modigliani-Miller approach with taxes, it is identical to net income approach. We know that net operating income approach is irrelevant theory, and the net income theory is a relevant theory. So Modigliani-Miller approach put forward two approaches, without taxes and with taxes. Without taxes is considered as their original theory, and it is identical to net operating income approach, and we can see that in detail. So the first theory, that is Modigliani-Miller theory without taxes, that's the original theory. It is identical to the net operating income approach. In 1958, Modigliani and Miller published their research stating that the value of the firm does not change with the change in the firm's capital structure. That means the value of a firm is independent of its capital structure. However, their hypothesis was made under the assumption that there is no corporate taxes. So, this theory says that there is no corporate taxes are there, and the basic concept of this approach is same that of the net operating income approach. That is, the capital structure is irrelevant and it does not affect the value of the firm. So, the debt equity mix, the proportion in the debt equity mix, it has nothing to do with the value of the firm. So there are mainly three propositions in the Modigliani-Miller approach without taxes. First one is the value of levered firm is equal to unlevered firm. Levered and unlevered means a firm which uses debt in its capital structure is a levered firm. A firm that does not uses debt in its capital structure is unlevered firm. That means the proposition 1 says that value of levered firm is equal to value of unlevered firm. That means whether the debt is used in the capital structure or not does not affect the value of the firm. That means the capital structure is irrelevant to the value of the firm. Now the proposition 2 states that with the increasing leverage, the cost of equity rises exactly to offset the advantage of reduced cost of debt to keep the value of the firm constant. That means the proposition 2 says exactly what the net operating income approach says. The increasing leverage, that means if the debt is used in an increased way, then the cost of equity will increase and it will exactly offset the advantage created by using the debt in the first stage. When the first stage, when debt is used, the overall cost of capital is reduced and the value was increased. And if the debt is again and again used, that means increasing leverage is done, then the cost of equity will increase and overall cost of capital will increase and the value of the firm will get decreased. So whatever advantage is created by using the cheaper source of finance, debt, will get nullified by the excess use of debt, and which leads to the increase in the cost of equity, which leads into the increase in the overall cost of capital, and that leads to the decrease in the value of the firm. And proposition 3 says that cost of capital of levered firm is equal to the cost of capital of unlevered firm. That means the cost of capital of a firm which is using debt and the cost of capital of a firm that is not using debt is same. So altogether we can say that the Modigliani-Miller theory approach without taxes is the original theory, and it says exactly what the net operating income theory says, that the capital structure is irrelevant and it does not affect the value of the firm. There are three propositions, proposition 1, 2 and 3. Now we can see an arbitrage process that comes in the Modigliani-Miller approach. The proposition 1, that a value of levered firm is equal to the value of unlevered firm. This is the proposition 1. This can be explained through arbitrage process. Now we can see the simple logic of proposition 1 is that two firms with identical assets, irrespective of how these assets have been financed, cannot command different values, market value. That means the value of levered firm and value of unlevered firm is equal. That means a firm which is a firm in which capital structure is debt is there, and the firm on which capital structure there is no debt, their value is same. So it can be explained with the arbitrage process. In this situation, the approach provides the operational justification by employing this arbitrage process. For explaining the proposition 1, the approach has used the arbitrage process. So arbitrage process is followed to equate the value of levered firm and unlevered firm. Arbitrage means act of buying a security in one market at a lower price and selling it to another market at a higher price with a view to earn profit. This process continues till the equilibrium is achieved or comes to an end with identical firms' share price is equal. Let's see an example for arbitrage process. Consider a firm A that is leveraged. That means a firm A uses debt in its capital structure. Firm B is unleveraged. That means the firm B is not using debt in its capital structure. It is an all equity. It has made its capital through equity shares only. No debt is used in that. As per net income approach, the firm uses debt. As per the net income approach, we know that a firm that uses debt definitely is using a cheaper source of finance. That firm uses debt is firm A. It is a leveraged firm. Definitely it is using a cheaper source of finance and definitely will have a lower overall cost of capital and more value, and thus higher return than firm B. So as per the net income approach, a leveraged firm definitely will have less overall cost of capital K0 and increased value. This situation will not continue because of this arbitrage process. Let's see. So as per net income approach, leveraged firm A will have more value than firm B because firm A is using cheaper source of finance, debt. But this situation will not continue for long because of arbitrage process, because in the proposition 1 of theory says that the value of a leveraged firm is equal to value of unleveraged firm, and arbitrage process will explain it. So the investors of firm A, which is a leveraged firm and which is having higher value, will sell their overvalued shares to get more profit. and they will start buying the undervalued shares of firm B because its value is low. As a result of increased demand of shares of firm B, the share price will start increasing for firm B. As a result of increased supply of shares of firm A, the share price of the firm A will start decrease. And this buying and selling continue till the two firms have the same market values. So firm A is having higher value shares, so that's why everyone will start selling that shares of overvalued shares. So increased supply of share A will be there, and that will lead to decrease in the price. And firm B, since its price is low, everyone will start buying it at a lower price, and hence the increased demand will result in the increase in the price of the firm B. And thus the price of A, the value of the market value of firm A and firm B will reach at a particular point, and they will become equal. Till that, this arbitrage process, this buying and selling will happen. So we can say that the value of a levered firm will is equal to the value of an unlevered firm. So this is all about the arbitrage process, and this arbitrage process will help to explain the proposition 1 of the Modigliani-Miller approach, that is value of levered firm is equal to unlevered firm. Now we can discuss the second approach of Modigliani-Miller approach, that is with taxes. So Modigliani-Miller approach without taxes is just same as that of net operating income theory, says that capital structure is irrelevant and capital structure does not affect the value of the firm. But this Miller and Modigliani approach with taxes, this is exactly like net income theory, which says that capital structure is relevant and it affects the value of the firm. In 1963, they corrected their research to show the impact of including corporate tax in the firm's value. The Modigliani and Miller argued that the value of firm will increase and the cost of capital will decline if corporate taxes are allowed in the exercise. This is because the interest on debt is a tax deductible expense. Thereby, effective cost of debt is less than the contractual rate of interest. But a dividend payment to stakeholders is not deductible. Therefore, capital structure is relevant. So, if tax is considered, if with taxes, the Miller and Modigliani said that definitely the interest paid to the debt or debenture is a deductible expense. So, definitely by using a debt, the cost of capital can be reduced, the overall cost of capital can be reduced, and the value can be increased. So thus they stated that the capital structure is relevant and the capital structure will affect the value of the firm. That means if we are using more debt in our capital structure, definitely the cost of capital, overall cost of capital can be reduced and the value of the firm can be increased. So this is all about Modigliani-Miller approach. So Modigliani-Miller approach says about two things: without taxes and with taxes. This without taxes is considered as their original theory, and it is identical to net operating income theory, says that capital structure is irrelevant to the value of the firm. And the second approach, that is with taxes, it is identical to net income approach, saying that the capital structure is relevant and it affects the value of the firm. So that's all about the different capital structure theories. Thank you.